I will be ready for the day. And first, I would like to invite Mr. Hu Hao, Vice Chair of Global Business Development Committee and Managing Director of Global Business Development of Shanghai Stock Exchange, for the welcome remarks.
Hello, dear Mr. Artai Kangai, dear Mr. Finance Tax, and dear friends. Good to meet you. Good to meet you all. I'm sorry we cannot meet each other in person, but I think it's still a very great opportunity for us to get together online on this special event. China and Mongolia are very close neighbors and good partners. The trade and the economic cooperation between the two countries have witnessed a tremendous development during the past years. But this is the first time in the capital market that we have such kind of event between the professionals of the two markets to get together to have such kind of forum. I believe with today's path-breaking event, we will learn more about each other's markets and build friendship and find business opportunities. And this online roadshow will definitely have its position if we, years in the future. That's when we look back. I think this event will have some position in the history of our two capital markets cooperation. During the preparation of the roadshow, together with my team, together with the Mongolian Stock Exchange, we really made some, challenges because, since this is the first encounter of our two markets, and I believe it's also the first encounter of many of you on the two sides, Mongolia and China. So, as for me and myself, I don't know much about Mongolian stock market. I have friendship in Mongolian Stock Exchange, but I don't know very much about your market. And I guess that for the team of Mongolian Stock Exchange and for today's participants on the Mongolian side, you may not know our market very much either. So how to use these opportunities to net each other, to understand, to enhance understanding of the two markets is a very important thing and is a very important goal for today's event. And in recent years, Chinese capital market has become one of the major capital markets thanks to the rapid development of the Chinese economy. And at the same time, Mongolia has registered eye-catching development in many sectors as well. Mongolian Stock Exchange was established in 1991, and the Shanghai Stock Exchange was established in December 1990, so almost the same time. And after the establishment, the two financial markets both developed quickly. And right now, the 186 listed companies of Mongolian Stock Exchange play a very important, crucial role in Mongolia economy and financial system. China is Mongolia's largest trading partner. The close trade and economic relationship create great potentials for financial cooperation as well as to other two capital markets. Today we have the privilege to have this event, and we invite speakers to cover topics including the Mongolia's capital market, Mongolia macroeconomic landscape, the investor experience, and the presentations from 4 companies very soon to be listed on Mongolian Stock Exchange. So I think it's a very good opportunity for us to learn comprehensively and to get multi-perspective view of investing in Mongolia. We have 16 to 17 attendees from the China side, including leading securities firms, AMCs, and other institutional investors in China. Many of the Chinese side investors have been investing extensively globally on the financial markets, but mainly the developed markets of Western countries. But I think today, with the rapid development of the Mongolian economy and the Mongolian financial market, I think it's time to look northward, to look our neighbor Mongolia, and to find opportunities of investment in Mongolia capital markets, which is a market with huge potentials and plenty of opportunities. I wish today's event a full success, and thank you all for joining us, and I do hope we could meet you friends, all in the future in person. This is the first time that we have Mongolia Capital Market Forum, and I hope if we have the second time when the pandemic is over, we can do that in Mongolia, the beautiful country and the beautiful city. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fu Hao, Vice Chair of Global Business Development Committee, Managing Director of Global Business Development, Shanghai Stock Exchange. And now I would like to invite Mr. Altay Khanga, the CEO of Mongolian Stock Exchange, for the welcome remarks.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, distinguished guest speakers. Can you hear me? Thank you. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you to Mongolian Capital Markets Day 2021, webinar hosted jointly by Mongolian and Shanghai Stock Exchanges. Although we cannot meet in person in this time due to the travel restrictions, I am happy to see all distinguished guests and speakers who gathered here online today and have shown their interest in Mongolian capital markets. It has been 30 years since the establishment of Mongolian Capital Market and Mongolian Stock Exchange. In the past years, the strong foundation of the capital market in Mongolia, including the legal and regulatory framework and market and institutional capacity, were built and the international standards were introduced to the market and its infrastructure. In recent years, the stock market has reached its highest level of its activity, with the boom in the number of IPOs, further offerings, and introduction of the new products in the market. Just to name a few, we have welcomed the first dual listing, the largest corporate bond of around $220 million issued by the biggest coking coal producer in Mongolia, first public asset-backed security, and first investment fund listing in the last 2 to 3 years time, and set new historic records for highest market capitalization. Highest trading turnover to date in 2021. Even more exciting is that our pipeline is growing at an exponential rate. As we speak, Mandal Asset Management Company is launching its book building for subscription of the second public investment fund from local and global investors for around $20 million fund. The second dual listing is expected in the month of July of this year. Systemically influential 5 commercial banks are also on the pipeline within the next 12 months, as they are mandated by the recent amendments to the banking law to float on Mongolian Stock Exchange and diversify their shareholders. Also, financing of large-scale state-owned mining and infrastructure projects will be done through Mongolian Stock Exchange. With this policy support and commitment by the Mongolian government in strengthening and developing the local capital markets, as well as our efforts to improve the foreign investment environment at large, we expect to witness an extensive growth in the near future. Mongolian Stock Exchange and Mongolian capital markets is in the critical path of its development. As we build the pipeline of new products, we're in immense need of broadening of our investor base, in particular the global investor base, to enhance our market capacity. I regard today's webinar the introduction of our market to you, the investors and fund managers and market participants in our partnership with the Shanghai Stock Exchange have a decisive role in helping Mongolian capital markets reach the growth potential it has. I trust I trust we as a market can offer you attractive products and services, and we'll be committed to working with you, the market participants and investors, in better meeting your requirements as investors and creating a more favorable investment environment. I'm confident that our cooperation will only further grow and strengthen in the way forward. I would like to express my special gratitude to Mr. Tu Hao, Vice Chair of Global Business Development Committee and Managing Director of Global Business Development of Shanghai Stock Exchange, and the colleagues from Shanghai Stock Exchange for organizing this event and convening together in such a high caliber for investment decision making. Thank you very much again for attending this webinar and for expressing interest in Mongolian capital markets. I look forward to developing the close partnership with all of you. Hope you will enjoy this webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alta, Shanghai, the CEO of the Mongolian Stock Exchange. And now we are moving to the next part of the event. It's investing in Mongolian capital markets. And I would like to invite Ms. Jaflan Ivano for the presentation. She is currently the Chief Operating Officer of Mongolian Stock Exchange, and she will give us quite an insightful demonstration of Mongolian Stock Exchange. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jaflan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Mongolian Stock Exchange, and I'm going to introduce the Mongolian capital market potential. And let me share the presentation now. Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, my presentation, I will go through the country, our country profile information. Mongolia has a population of 3.3 million population, and the GDP of the last year was $13.2 billion US, and the GDP per capita was around slightly below $4,000 US. And one of the achievements that Mongolia has achieved during this pandemic times is the COVID vaccination rate. And out of 72% of total population has received the first dose of the COVID vaccination, while the 53% of total population received the second dose. And as you might know that our country has rich natural resources and minerals, and is strategically located between China and Russia, and the second biggest coal exporter to China. And as of now, big infrastructure projects like railway, road, and power plant projects are being implemented in order to facilitate the coal exports to China. And our country has a very liberal and flexible financial system with no currency movement restriction and no prohibition of foreign investment. And as you can see on this slide, our Mongolia's credit rating is rated as stable B. The next slide shows the historic milestones of Mongolian capital markets. Mongolian Stock Exchange and Mongolian Capital Market was established in 1991 in order to implement the state privatization through state privatization in the transition to market economy from planet economy. In 2005, the first IPO was made, and we entered into the strategic partnership agreement with the London Stock Exchange in 2011. And within the framework of this strategic partnership, we introduced world-class regulatory environment, technology, and infrastructure in the domestic capital market. Based on the legal changes, the first wall listing was introduced to the domestic capital market. And as you can see from this slide, the year of 2018 was the year of record number of IPOs, which is IPO booms. And ever since the Mongolian capital market has been ever since the potential of the Mongolian capital markets has been unlocked, and the number of new products have been introduced, which includes the first closed-end funds, investment funds, and the asset-backed securities and infrastructure bonds, etc. And as of now, we are working to introduce the new ETF listing rules, and we expect that the launch of the first ETF in the Q3 of this year. And also, Mongolia has met the FTSE Russell Frontier Market watch list criteria, and the final decision of to the inclusion in the market watch list will be decided in September of this year by the FTSE Russell company. Okay, now I'm going to focus on a bit more on the strategic partnership with the London Stock Exchange. As mentioned before previously, the key milestones we have achieved within the framework of the partnership is legal changes and technological changes. And the securities market law and market rules and regulations and investment funds law were revised according to the partnership agreement. And also in 2012, we launched the cutting-edge Millennium IT technology, which is the same software used by the London Stock Exchange. And the system has 3 subsystems such as surveillance, CST, and exchange and trade, and all of them are used by the whole market organization. The new software and trading rules improved the trading experience much more than significantly compared to before, thanks to the new technology introduced by the Millennium IT technology company, provided us the online trading possibilities. And as of now, over 90% of investors using online trading and using their mobile phones. So foreign investors like in China can also use online trading and without any time delay using their mobile application. And this slide shows that some general background information of our market performance. And so the current market cap of the stock exchange is $1.3 billion US dollars, which shows an increase around 50% of growth compared to the previous year. And the top 20 index, which is the main index of our market, doubled compared to the previous year. And with regards to the daily average trade, the daily average trade equals around 1.2 million US dollars, and which grew by 7 times from the previous year. And we have 193 listed products, including stock, corporate bonds, investment funds, and asset-backed securities. And we have 53 securities firms, and there are 3 custodian banks operating in the market. Mongolian Stock Exchange has had a pretty robust pipeline in the recent years. This year we have listed the first asset-backed securities and the infrastructure bonds, which is issued by the state-owned coking coal mining company. And the next tranche of these infrastructure bonds will be issued in within this year. And also we are expecting the second one listing, which is the Step Gold company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And also the biggest investment fund, which is the Mandal Asset Management, which will be presented the issuance in the later half of this event. In the coming year, we are expecting the major banks IPOs, which will be the biggest IPOs in the domestic capital market, and also the major historic milestones of the Mongolian capital market. With regards to the international investment, during the last 3 years, the foreign investors represented approximately 25% of total investors, and most of the foreign investors are from Korea. And we have seen increased interest from foreign institutional investors in the market. For example, the Korean-based investment fund opened its subsidiary in our country in 2019, and also certain Japanese investors became the strategic investors of some new IPOs. As an emerging market, Mongolian capital market has been growing rapidly, and there is significant growth potential, and majority of the listed companies remain undervalued. Here is the share price performance of some of the companies included in the top 20 index. As you can see, the nominal price change shows varies from twice to hundreds of times. And top 20 index increased by 3 times from the 10 years ago. Now I'm going to focus on a bit more market potential. As I mentioned before, the major banks of Mongolia are expected to be listed on the Mongolian Stock Exchange before June 30th of next year. And these banks, for instance, are reached the international standards as auditing and credit rating agency. Credit ratings are carried out by Big Four auditing companies and international credit rating agencies. And we actually have 12 commercial banks, and 5 of them are systemically important banks. And these banks' IPOs are expected to be ranged from $1 to $3 billion. The banking law amendment includes some requirements that banks determined by the Bank of Mongolia systemic must become open joint stock companies before June of the next year. And also, any shareholder must not hold more than 20% of the total issued shares of any bank. Another aspect of the market potential is the privatization of strategic projects. I would say that Mongolian Stock Exchange, as well as the capital market, is the link to get exposure to mining projects that Mongolia possesses. State privatization is one of the key potentials that Mongolian capital markets have. And Mongolian government possesses several strategic mining assets that could become privatized and to be listed on the Mongolian Stock Exchange in the future. Also, large-scale infrastructure projects are on the horizon. And for example, as I mentioned before, last April, MSC listed the first infrastructure bond issued by the Тухай to finance the largest infrastructure projects to facilitate the exports to China and other international markets. The next tranche of these bonds will be issued in the next quarter. As of now, we have 27 mining companies which are listed overseas on the major exchanges. So far, we listed the first one listing, and the second one is pending. So potentially, all these companies could come to be listed on the local stock exchange to get exposure to the local shareholders, as well as to get some social license to operate in Mongolia through the listing. So I have introduced some our market updates to you, and now I will introduce some taxation and some special provisions related to foreign investment. Generally, non-residents pay 20% of withholding taxes on dividends, interest income, capital gains. However, according to the double tax treaty concluded between China and Russia, the investor tax rate is reduced as shown in the chart. And there isn't any currency movement and restriction on foreign ownership. However, under the current investment law, foreign government-owned legal entity holds is seeking to buy more than 33% in the mineral resources of banking and finance or in media and communication shall have to get an approval from the government organization. There is the only one restriction in the foreign investment. Okay. So here is the advantages of investing in Mongolian capital market. Lower taxes and equal treatment. There is no discrimination between foreign and local investors. And also foreign firms and individuals can open their depository account directly at the NCSC, which provides investors liability. And also very liberal financial system, and the number of foreign investors is expected to increase with the shift to T+2 settlement cycle, and inclusion in frontier markets list, and the domestic listing of Mongolian strategic assets. And so I would conclude that the Mongolian capital market is in the span of pivotal point and plans of implementing government policy reforms to ensure fair distribution of wealth. And also further, MSC aims to provide a diverse portfolio of products to investors and to introduce more international standards into the local market. Thus, we will welcome you to invest in our capital market. And if you need any further information or support in investing in our market, please feel free to contact us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jaffa, for a very insightful presentation about Mongolian capital market and how investors can approach. So I'm sure we'll have questions in the later today. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Hans Takach, head of Mongolia EBRD, to present the next presentation.
Thank you very much for handing over to me. First of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a big thank you to Shanghai Stock Exchange and Mongolian Stock Exchange for the invitation to speak at today's event. First, please let me start with a very short overview who the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, shortly EBRD, is, for those of you which never had the opportunity to work with our bank. So EBRD is a mainly private sector-oriented international financial institution owned by 69 countries from 5 continents, plus the European Union and the European Investment Bank. So not just those countries which receive our investments. The number of EBRD shareholders is still increasing, and recent new members include China, India, San Marino, and Libya. And EBRD was founded 30 years ago, and since then we invested almost 150 billion euros in a total of more than 6,000 investment projects. In Mongolia itself, we are operating since 15 years and have invested around $2.2 billion. 93% of investments we are made into the private sector, and the rest we are for infrastructure investments. Now let me come to the perspectives of the Mongolian economy. Just yesterday, we released our regional economic prospects report, which also answers the question, how do we, as an IFI and development bank, see the post-pandemic recovery for Mongolia? Overall, I can say we are quite optimistic as far as the immediate future is concerned. Mongolia's recovery is being helped by several factors, which I kindly would like to summarize. First, political consolidation achieved through the June 2021 presidential election, which will help ensure greater policy continuity and may unlock important economic and governance reforms. Second, in 2020, Mongolia successfully managed to strengthen its external financing position by refinancing some of the maturities upcoming in 2021 and 2022. The public debt has risen in 2020, now approximately close to 80% of GDP. By averting an imminent liquidity crisis, Mongolia managed to acquire crucial breathing space for public investment and specifically for economic reforms. So third, the geographical proximity to China is now becoming a strong economic advantage. China is the only major economy to avoid a recession in 2020, and its growth in Q1 2021 was very impressive at 18.3%. So China's rising demand for coal and metals is important for Mongolia's exports and will support Mongolia's economic growth as well. Fourth, commodity prices have reached extremely high levels in the first half of 2021, thanks also to unprecedented injections of stimulus money by national banks in developed economies. The extra revenues collected by the Mongolian government will be redistributed through public sector salaries and investment, as foreseen by the government's 10 trillion two-group stimulus plan for economic recovery and healthcare protection, financing internal demand for goods and services and supporting economic growth. Of course, to avoid overheating and real appreciation of the Mongolian currency, the monetary authorities should step in to curb inflationary pressures if needed. Now, what's the economic forecast for Mongolia? Having absorbed large losses from early lockdowns and border closures, Mongolia recorded real GDP growth of 15.7% year-on-year in the first quarter 2021. So very good numbers indeed. Growth was mainly driven by China's recovery and elevated commodity prices. Exports rose by 81.8% year-on-year in the first 4 months, thanks to strong performance in iron ores, concentrates, copper concentrates, and coal. And overall mining output increased 34% year-on-year. In comparison, services grew by a much more modest 3.6% year-on-year. So as you can see, the large difference here, sector base. With the economy recovering, inflation accelerated to 5.6% in April 2021 from the low of 2.3% in December 2020. However, the policy rate has been kept unchanged at 6% since November 2020, supporting credit expansion, and fiscal policy will also in the future supporting growth in 2021, with the budget deficit planned as around 5.1% of GDP. We also see a large stimulus package for 21 to 23, estimated at around 5% of GDP, to be mainly financed by the central bank. Still, the government's ability to continue to redistribute income from the mining sector will be constrained by the elevated level of public debt and large bond maturities in 2021 to 2024. But there are quite good plans in place by the Mongolian government how to manage the situation. Overall, Mongolia's GDP is expected to grow by 6.3% in 2021 and by 6% in 2022. So let's see what does that mean for foreign investments and the local capital market. Foreign direct investments is of course a critically important source of capital for Mongolia to support its broad economic and development agendas, as also stipulated in the Vision 2050. The Prime Minister has announced a full spectrum investment reform on the first 100 day of his government and the National Development Agency, the regulatory agency in charge of foreign direct investments, is leading the reform efforts, specifically in 4 areas. It's on one hand the legal background, it's investor protection, it's improved digital services, as well as tailored promotion approaches for different markets to highlight the opportunities the country can offer. So as you can see, Mongolia is open for investments, offers a number of opportunities, and additionally, the government is planning to further enhance its investment environment to attract foreign direct investments by creating an enabling and favorable environment for foreign investors. Now, you may ask, what are the sectors investors may potentially be interested in? Of course, Mongolia's mining sector will undoubtedly continue to attract a large share of foreign direct investments. With commodity prices sky high, there will be sufficient interest for sure. Another area of interest for FDI, and that is something we are seeing more and more, is the green transformation of the economy. And here I would like to highlight the large potential of the renewable energy sectors in Mongolia, specifically wind and solar power. It has to be noted that almost 2/3 of wind and solar projects built globally last year will be able to generate cheaper electricity than even the world's cheapest new coal plant. And that was also highlighted by a report from the International Renewable Energy Agency. Currently, it's time for Mongolia to fully utilize its renewable energy potential, with even the chance to become net exporter of energy at some point of time. A very important development step. And of course, we should not forget the manufacturing and services sector, as well as the agricultural sector, one of the traditional sectors in Mongolia, which also have the potential for foreign direct investments, specifically for investments along the value chain, to move from raw materials to processed products ready for local consumption and export. And of course, the main topic today, the Mongolian capital market, and specifically the equity market, is another area with a number of investment opportunities in the close future. And where those opportunities for investors are mainly either in listed companies or in the upcoming IPOs. As mentioned before, the amendments to the banking law will result in the IPOs of the 5 systemic banks until mid of 2022, and even potential secondary public offerings at the end of 2023 to reach the 20% shareholder limits. So we'll see here an increasing influx of investments. And furthermore, a number of companies are considering a potential IPO on the Mongolian Stock Exchange, and I think some of the companies will be presented later on as well. Overall, you can see a number of potential investment opportunities in the near future, and we as a development bank are of course closely following the developments to decide how we can support the local capital markets. As you may know, EBRD has an own unit focusing on the development and local capital markets, and was also supporting Mongolia to implement T+2 settlement cycle. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for very insightful information regarding one of the leading foreign institutions being present for over 15 years in Mongolia, investing more than $2 billion. I would like to invite Mr. Dennis Bey, the CEO of the Rhinus Investments.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dennis from Rhinus Asset Management. Before I introduce our company's investing experience in Mongolia, I would like to first introduce our company because most of all might not be familiar with our company. Let me share our presentation with you guys.
I think we have some technical challenges. Network delay. Maybe just using this time, I would like to ask if Mr. Dennis is not ready yet, so I want to ask a few questions from our previous presenters.
Mr. Monsoro, I think Mr. Dennis Bay is back now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, yeah. Presentation is ready. So next page, please. Linus Asset Management is a private asset management company based in Seoul, specialized in equity-linked bonds such as convertible bond and bond with warranties. We have invested in ELBs, equity-linked bonds, issued by major companies worldwide, especially focusing on Korean companies. Next, please. Our company has not experienced a single default case in over 120 investments we have made our period of fund management. That's the reason why representative Korean institutional investors have been investing with Linus Asset Management in the Korean market and quite supportive to our foreign investments as well. Next, please. As the COVID-19 depressed investing in foreign countries, our company expanded to private equity fund business. We have formed 3 private equity funds over last year, starting with the Daily Motorcycle, Korea's #1 manufacturer of motorcycles. We have made investments into various sectors such as premium golf club and the power electronics solution provider. Next, please. As you can see from our slides, for our foreign ELBs, we specialize in investing in major global companies' convertible bonds. The companies are very familiar with you guys, so I don't need to explain further. Next, please. As with our investments in emerging markets such as Vietnam, Linus invests in ELBs by directly sourcing and executing deals. We have made 3 investments into Vietnam, over $100 million in total. We have securely closed our first investment in the Vietnamese government-owned company, CII, early 2020 at the peak of COVID-19 era. Next, please. Linus started actively investing into Mongolian capital market after acquiring a certificate of deposit issued by the Mongolian government-owned bank. We are the first foreign institution in Mongolia to participate in a local IPO, a fintech company named Landamen. Moreover, we were the first foreign institution established the equity-linked bond vehicle in Mongolian capital market, opening up the yield market in Mongolia. Linus actually as a bridge between the Mongolian capital market and the Korean capital market. Next, please. Therefore, in 2018, we established a local asset management company in Ulaanbaatar and the securities company in the following year as well. Next, please. Through Linus Asset Management Mongolian branch, we established the first onshore fund focusing on fixed income investment in the Mongolian capital market. And those funds are supplied to Mongolian local investors. Next, please. As you can see from our infrastructure on the slide, with our head office in Seoul, we have been assisting Korean investors, mainly representative institutional investors, to approach the Mongolian capital market more easily. Next, please. So the infrastructure of our company has invested in various assets in Mongolia, both denominated in US dollar and the Mongolian local currency tugrek. Next, please. Our company has established and managed a total of 35 funds investing in Mongolian capital market. We have successfully withdrawn from 31 investments and 4 remaining funds are still being managed. We will resume active investments into the Mongolian capital market as the COVID-19 situation stabilizes. Next, please. Thank you for listening my very short presentation. In summary, Mongolia is still a difficult market to approach by foreign investors, most of foreign investors. But the Mongolian Stock Exchange and the related government bodies are making countless efforts to improve the investing environment. Securities issued by the Mongolian government and the corporations are very attractive assets, investment assets. So as the market becomes more approachable to the foreign institutional investors, we strongly believe Mongolia will be a popular investment destination in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis, sharing your experience with regarding Mongolia. This was our second section of today's event, and now we'll have presentations from the companies to be listed on Mongolian Stock Exchange. And as Mr. Alta mentioned earlier, the first presentation will be presented by one of the systematically influenced commercial banks. So I think it will be very interesting for our guests to hear about the information regarding the Mongolian commercial banks. So I would like to invite Ms. Irndurgu Baldla, Deputy CEO of the Ham Bank. The Ham Bank is also one of the systematically influenced commercial banks.
So can you hear me now? Okay. So let me just share my screen now quickly. so that you can see my screen, right? So
Yeah,
can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at this capital market event on behalf of the Han Bank. So Han Bank is the largest bank in Mongolia, counting 1/3 of the banking system. So myself is I'm Degi, by short name, Deputy CEO of the bank. And so I will start the presentation now. Okay, this is the headquarters of our bank, and we have a vision of to be a leading bank in Mongolia, bringing the simple and accessible banking solution. Our mission is to become the nation's most trusted financial institution, benefiting people's lives and Mongolian society. So our core values are to our customers, employees, and our communities, and then also the shareholders. So this slide describes the key milestone of the Han Bank, and up until 1991, Mongolia had the mono banking system, and as the country transitioned to the market economy, the two-tier banking system established, and at that time, the Han Bank, Agriculture Bank of Mongolia, was established. So it was inheriting the branch network of the mono banking state banking system. And then in 2003, the bank was privatized through international tender, and the Sauda Holding, the current 60% of the shareholder, bought the bank the 100%. On that same year, they sold the 40% stake to the Tambot Group, which is a Mongolian the business conglomerate. And on the following year, 2004, they invited IFC World Bank as a strategic shareholder. With the IFC shareholding, the bank really developed itself, the prudent risk management, good governance, and establishment of the relationship with the foreign investors on the funding side and in the different areas. So now, in the last 5 years period, and then bank has been investing heavily in the digital transformation, and then as a result, now ever since the privatization, our total asset has been increased almost 156 times, and then reaching to the 12.1 trillion tugrik. That's roughly about $4.6 billion now. So the current shareholding of the bank is there's two major shareholders. The Sauda Holding is listed in Tokyo Stock Exchange, and so they engaged in the financial services, and they owns the 45% of the bank now. HS International Asia is 100% of the subsidiary of Sauda Holding, so they own 14.4% of the bank. So collectively, Sauda Holding HS International is owning 60% of the bank. Tambot Trade and its business conglomerate, so owning 25.3% of the bank. And Di Hulang is spouse of the president of the Tambot Group and also the shareholder of the Tambot Group, and she owns the 14.7%, and then she has been serving as executive vice president of the Tambot Group now. So those Tambot and Di Hulang is collectively owns the 40% of the bank. Okay, this slide shows the board of the directors and then independent directors that under the banking law. So we supposed to have at least the 7 and 8 members that consist of the board of the directors. And Hideo Sawada in the Vihara is representing Sauda Holding in HS Securities. Mr. Batar Sahang is representing Tambot Group and Di Hulang itself. And John Law he was a nominee director from the IFC. Even IFC invested with the bank until from 2004 to 2020 last year. So in 16 years period, they usually the equity investment from these institutions usually 5 to 7 years horizon. But then the IFC stayed with the Han Bank 16 years period, and then they exited last year. And even they left, so John Law is still the representing them, and then sitting at our board of the directors. And then we have independent 3 directors, and who have extensive the banking and financial and risk knowledge, and they have been with Han Bank board ever since last May of the last year. So as briefly that you can see, the Han Bank is total asset is $4.7 billion, and our loan outstanding is reaching to $2.1 billion. Our deposit is reaching to $3.8 billion, and the capital adequacy ratio is 17.8%. And while the Bank of Mongolia Central Bank regulation is the requirement is 12%, we've been meeting the capital adequacy ratio with a very strong buffer. Our return on equity is about 17.5%, and which is the industry-leading performance that we're showing on our equity. And we have been rated by Moody's and Fitch rating ever since 2008. And now we are by Moody's B3 stable, and by Fitch it's a B stable. Our rating is constrained by the Mongolian sovereign rating as well. So in terms of the Han Bank franchise value, we are 3.3 million the population. The Han Bank is servicing to 78% of the population, which that makes the 2.6 million customers. And 546 branches we have, and 110 of them is in UB, the capital city, and rest of the 430 is in rural areas. And in every small the government district, we have our branches. And Mongolia is a huge country. It's the 18th largest country in terms of the size, and then quite scattered. So in that case, our 430 branch plays a very important role for the community development, and then on that respective region. So we have about 420,000 active borrowers. That's 52% of them is female, and 48% is male. And our clients is 57% lives in the rural areas, and 43% is in urban. We have 4,900 the full-time employees. That's 60% is female, and 40% is the male employees. So as digital transformation happens, and we are engaging with our customers not only through branches and also different channels. And then on this left chart that you can see, besides the branch network, we are servicing to our clients through the internet banking and mobile banking, ATMs, kiosk, and our Han Bank application, POS machines, and telephone banking. So on the digital banking market, Han Bank is the leader. And we are processing the 46% of the digital transactions. And then mobile transaction market, we are processing 80%. On the ATM side, 78%. On the POS transactions, 45%. And as I said earlier, so digital transformation process and then investment has really happened in the last 5-6 years period. In 2015, the proportion of the digital and branch transaction was 55% was done at the digital channels and 45% at the branch. At that time, the Han Bank is regarded as very long queue, and it was difficult to service to the higher affluence the customers. Now, all this digital investment and the transformation, as of the 2020, 98% of our transactions are now processed through digital channels, and only 2% is processing now at the branch level. So annual basis, we are processing about 600 million transactions now. So very briefly on the banking sector, and there's 12 commercial banks operating, and 1 state-owned bank, and 532 non-bank financial institutions, and some savings and credit cooperatives, and also insurance companies operating in Mongolian market. But then there's the five systemic important banks is representing almost 94% of the total banking assets now. So definition is anyone who owns more than 5% of the market share in terms of the total assets is considered as a systemic important bank. So those now 5 banks are now representing 94%, and those banks are now under the amendment to the banking law is required to be listed and to go public in the first half of the next year. So Ham Bank as one of the systemic important banks, so we're counting 30 to 36% of the market share in terms of the asset, deposit, and loan and capital. So on this, the graphics that you can see, our compounded average growth rate of the 5 years where we were demonstrating the industry-leading performance. Our asset has been growing 18%, and our deposit was growing about 27%, and the loan book was growing at about 12%, showing the industry-leading performance. And those are key metrics that the requires from central bank on the key prudential ratios. On the capital adequacy ratios, and the minimum requirement is 12%. This Ham Bank's performance now, as of the first quarter of this year, we are about 16.6%. Our ROE is now 15.7%. Liquidity is quite liquid, about 55%. Our non-performing loan ratio is the lowest in the industry. That's 6.1%. Of course, the COVID-related the issues and challenges were challenged the banks, but then even so, the bank is maintaining the non-performing loan portfolio at quite at lower level at about 6% now. So on the specifically Ham Bank the financial performance, and the mainly about 50% of our total assets are placed into the loan book, and about 40% is in the treasuries like bonds and investments. And so if you see our loan portfolio by segmentation, that's 48% of our portfolio is in the consumer lending, and 52% is in the corporate and SME lending. So it was a bit different in 4 years ago, 2016, that you can see the consumer loan portfolio was accounting 65%, and then the business lending was accounting 32%. So now why this the proportion of the consumer loan is decreasing is there is some impact on it, and starting 2018, the Bank of Mongolia started implementing some macroprudential policies, that's mostly targeting to minimize the household debt burden. So in that case, they restricted the consumer lending tenor to up to the 30 months, and then some debt service coverage ratio they introduced. As a result, the proportion of the consumer loan portfolios decreased, but then eventually that decrease is filled by the strong growth in our small and medium enterprise, the businesses. And then on the pie chart that you can see, the consumer loan is now accounting 48%. On the business side, the most of our portfolios in the wholesale and retail trade, and construction is about 6%, and mining is about 5%, and then quite diversified portfolios that we have. And non-performing loans and industry level, it's 11.5%, but the Ham Bank is the NPL is about 6.1% now. So here our the funding structure, and we have 11 trillion Greek funding, and then almost 82% of them comes from our core deposit. And then the remaining part is the mostly coming from the overseas borrowing, and then those borrowings are usually the investors like IFC, FOMO, EBRD, some funds in Europe, and then some other the investors globally. So in the last 10 years period, the Han Bank raised about $1.1 billion investment, 3 to 7 years funding from these institutions. As of now, these borrowings accounting about 8% of our funding. And on the core deposit side is the majority of the deposit is the mostly the maximum tenor is 1 year. So average duration of the bank deposit is all into 6 months. So there's some maturity gap risks there. So in that case, those overseas the borrowings which we are raising from those international institutions investors for 3 to 7 years really helps to minimize such the maturity gap risk as well. And then also we work with global the banks on the trade of finance facilities. So we have about $330 million credit facilities from the global banks, and also we are most active issuing bank under IFC, EBRD, and ADB, and so through this trade facilitation program by IFC, EBRD, and ADB, we can indirectly can raise some trade-related facilities from over 200 institutions globally. And this slide shows our profitabilities, and last 5 years period, the capital was grown as 15.7% as a compound average growth rate. Our net profit after tax has been in 2020, despite this they call it challenges, and then we had the 161 billion profit. That was almost the 50% of the banking system. The profit is solidly generated by the Han Bank, and interest income is almost 83% of our income comes from our loan interest income and investment income. And as digital transformation happens, there's some non-interest income is also increasing, and so that accounts about the 13% of our income side. And that's very briefly about our bank. So now with this the banking law change, and 5 systemic important banks has to be listed in the first half of the next year, and we are required to submit our action plan within tomorrow. And we had this week we had the board of directors and shareholders meeting, and then our action plan is approved, and then we are ready to submit to Bank of Mongolia now. So we did some the market capacity survey on a closed way, and so the result shows the quite interesting as well, promising, and so if any interest from investors, and then we would be from Han Bank, so we would be happy to have our individual meetings and as well as have another series of the discussions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sirgundilgur, the Deputy CEO of the Han Bank. So our next guest is Badrun Dashtoj, Head of International Banking Department of Trade and Development Bank. Please welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mosso, for the introduction. As Mr. Mosso has mentioned, I am My name is Badrun. I'm the head of the International Banking Department at the Trade and Development Bank of Mongolia. So I will quickly share my screen. And my screen is visible now, yes?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Yeah, so be mindful of the time constraints and the trying to stick with the agenda that was provided to us. So I will keep the bank's presentation quite short and succinct. So I will start my presentation with a short overview of the banking industry, followed by the TDB's overview, as well as our new strategy and policy, long-term strategy to focus on sustainability issues of the country. And since Ms. Degi has provided quite an interesting overview of the banking industry as well, so I will not drag too long this year. Thank you for that, Ms. Degi, as well. So the banking sector in Mongolia is extremely critical to the Mongolian financial sector, approximately accounting for 93% of the financial sector. So the importance of the banking sector to Mongolian financial services as well as financial sector cannot be understated. And within the banking sector, TDB is the second largest commercial bank in terms of asset size, as Mr. Ye has mentioned. Han Bank is about a third of the Mongolian commercial banking sector. TDB is, a little over a fifth of the banking sector, accounting for more than 22% of the commercial bank's asset size. And whereas, as briefly mentioned in the presentation, Han Bank is focusing mostly on SME and consumer or retail segments of the country. TDB is the largest corporate bank in Mongolia. We have been consistently the largest and the main go-to bank for large corporates and in the corporate sector. Due to our focus on our corporate clients, TDB has always been extremely active in the international sector in terms of foreign trade, foreign settlements, and participation in the international capital markets. Whereas as of today, we remain the only commercial bank to have successfully accessed the international bond markets. And I will touch upon that briefly in the next few slides. Obviously, the COVID situation and the COVID pandemic has not been easy for all parties concerned, and which includes commercial banks as well. But due to the sector's proactive risk management approach, we believe, as echoed by Ms. Degi as well, we believe the Mongolian commercial banking sector is well positioned to overcome these challenges and be well positioned. We believe we are well positioned to make most of the economic growth that is anticipated for this year and 2022 and 2023 and beyond, with comfortable cash injections as well as comfortable asset management and liability management practices that we have implemented in this year and last year. So the overall banking sector's liquidity ratio remains quite strong. The capital adequacy ratio and Tier 1 capital ratios all remain quite strong as well. So asset increase over the years has been quite stable. Even though 2020 was a difficult year, the banking sector has performed quite strongly. Moving on to TDB's overview. As I mentioned before, we are the most experienced and largest corporate bank in Mongolia in terms of corporate lending market share. We serve over 400 major Mongolian corporations in nearly every major economic sectors. As I mentioned, we are the go-to commercial bank for large corporates, and we remain the only commercial bank to have successfully accessed international bond markets. We have direct correspondent relations with more than 200 foreign banks and financial institutions. So we are a very international, corporate-oriented and international-facing bank with quite strong franchise in the international markets. As for our credit rating, we have similarly to the sovereign ratings. As you know, the bank's sovereign ratings are kept at the government of Mongolia or the sovereign ratings. So we are rated as single B with and B3 with rating agencies S&P and Moody's with an outlook of stable. And in the right top corner, we have our financial brief financial results for the last 5 years and the first quarter of this year. We have a stable increase in our assets, a stable increase in our return on equity, and which, as you know, as everybody knows, last year was not one of the easiest years, but we have, due to our very proactive and strong management, this first quarter of this year, we have our return on equity has rebounded to 13.2%. So we believe we are to make most of the economic rebound and acceleration. In terms of the market share in the corporate banking segment, our bank accounts for more than half of the total banking sector. In terms of trade finance transactions for last year, we account for approximately 40%, and foreign settlements roughly 50%. So we, as mentioned, we have a very strong franchise in corporate servicing corporate clients, as well as servicing being the bridge between Mongolia and the international markets in terms of trade finance and foreign settlements. Moving on to the key performances of the bank. In terms of shareholders' equity market share, we account for almost a third, or roughly 27.8% of the total banking share. In terms of deposit market share, we account for more than a fifth. And in terms of loan outstanding market share, we account for a quarter of the commercial banks. One of the strengths of TDBM is in terms of our operational efficiency, and as you can see in the lower left chart, TDB remains leader in terms of net profit per employee. This obviously has to do with our business model of largely focusing on corporate, very strong franchise in corporate business, but also very increasingly enhancing our position and franchise in the retail and SME segments as well. So moving on, continuing on the financial fundamentals in terms of our revenue segments, you can see that almost half of our revenues is coming from the corporate banking sector, roughly 14% coming from retail banking, and under 10% from SME banking. and almost a third from our treasury operations, 28% to be precise. In terms of our loan portfolio, we have a very diversified loan portfolio, and of course, as the largest corporate bank, we tend to mainly focus on mining, trade, and construction sectors. But of course, in terms of our risk management policies, we have prudential policies in place to restrict our exposure to certain borrowers, certain segments, in order to have very prudential risk management practices in place. But currently, as of this first quarter of this year, mining sector accounts for roughly 17%, construction 11%, trade 21%, and moving below downwards from there. In terms of our growth in total loans, as you can see in long-term historics, we have had a very strong and stable growth in our total loans, total asset increases. Operating income also remains strong, largely supported by net interest income. And we remain the only commercial bank and one of very few entities out of Mongolia to have successfully tapped the international bond markets quite a number of times. We have issued up until today, we have issued 6 international bonds, 1 dim sum CNH bonds, and 5 US dollar bonds. The latest of which was issued in May of 2015 with the guarantee with sovereign guarantee, but it was repaid last year in May 2020 through our own liquidity, which we believe had a very strong impact on the trading activities of Mongolian bonds in the international market. So we remain very closely tied and cooperating with international market participants. Yeah, and moving forward, based on market changes in market demands and consumer preference changes, we felt it was an opportune time for us to come up with a new strategy, a new business model, new long-term and medium-term vision moving forward. So in September of last year, we have our board of directors have approved our new strategy, a new long-term objective going forward. So our vision as of September of last year, we have our vision is to become a leading bank in Mongolia, providing customers with banking services and products at international standards while creating value for our shareholders. And our mission being close to customers, both in traditional and digital ways, helping them to realize their aspirations. And in terms of our long-term strategy to accomplish our vision and mission, we have identified 4 pillars to our long-term strategy. The first one is to be a customer-centric bank, meaning that in all segments of the banking sector in corporate, we develop closely tailored products and services that meet the needs and aspirations and requirements of our customers in all segments. The second pillar being to become an international bank. And international bank means that first and foremost, in terms of our banking operation, in terms of our banking products and services we provide to our customers, in terms of our policy and strategies when moving forward, we will aspire to be on par with international banking standards and principles. The third pillar being to become a platform bank, meaning that moving forward, digital banking will play a crucial role in the way we do our businesses. So these three new pillars were identified in our new long-term strategy. Just to give a few highlights of last year, which we believe are important in terms of our, in relation to our strategy as well. In March of last year, at the 25th board meeting of the Green Climate Fund, the GCF fund, held in Switzerland, TDB became a national direct access entity or accredited entity of the fund. So moving forward, we will be able to draw upon the vast resources of GCF to finance and develop sustainability issues of the country. In May of last year, as I mentioned, we have repaid the fifth medium-term note with our own liquidity, $500 million. In June 29th, we have merged with Ulaanbaatar City Bank, another very important bank in the domestic commercial banking sector. With this strategic merger, TDB will be is now well placed to not only serve corporate banking clients, but also have a large reach in terms of servicing retail and SME segment customers as well. In September, as I mentioned, we have approved our new long-term strategy. In October, we signed our master agreement with GCF, officializing our accreditation process. And in December of last year, we have increased our core capital by 150 billion TUIPs, which places us in a very strong position to overcome any risks if there are COVID-related or not, and to will position us to make most of the economic recovery going forward. We also have a very strong and experienced executive management team. Our Vice Executive Chairman, Mr. Randolph Kopa, has more than 5 decades of experience in working in the banking sector in international markets and other international global commercial banks. Our CEO, Mr. Orhan, is a very experienced individual in the banking sector as well, and all of our C-level officers, executives are extremely vastly experienced people with so we believe our bank has a very strong management capacities moving forward. Just briefly in terms of our ownership, we have a very stable ownership structure where Mr. Erdogan currently owns 13.7% directly, and through subsidiaries of U.S. Global Investment and Global Investment indirectly owns around 50% of the bank. And United Banking Corporation, another very strategic investor, shareholder in the bank, currently owns roughly 31% of that. Excuse me. As briefly mentioned before, we have a very strong franchise in international cooperation and partnership, continuously receiving awards and accolades and recognitions for our performance in various banking services. We maintain a very strong franchise with numerous dozens of international banks in all the regions of the globe. We maintain over 60 nostro accounts. We have more than 200 we have more than 200 relations with international financial institutions, correspondent banks. We have more than now more than 400 million US dollars in terms of trade financing available, and we have very strong cooperation with Visa Card, Mastercard, UnionPay, and now we have very strong relations with a number of international vendors on e-payment solutions as well. So in the international cooperation area, we believe we have the strongest, our strongest capacity there. And just to briefly mention, because I think it is important moving forward, as mentioned in our long-term strategy, we will be giving extremely important, extremely strong focus on ESG aspects moving forward as well, especially on green and social finance. So just to briefly touch base on that aspect of the bank, beginning in 2012, we were the first bank commercial bank to implement environmental and social risk management systems with the support of FNO, Dutch Development Bank. We implemented and launched this system in the country. And we have been sustainably performing and outperforming in the environmental and social risk management issues in the commercial banking sector. In March 2019, we signed up to the investment principles of the Belt and Road initiative. We are one of the signatories there, and as I mentioned, in 2020, we have been accredited to the GCF, which I think speaks volume of our focus on ESG matters, and also it's a very strong vote of confidence for our bank's internal systems on environmental and social risk management issues. And just briefly, as I mentioned, we will be placing a very strong emphasis on strong focus on ESG aspects and social and green financing issues. So and in early this year, in March, April area, we have launched our climate program. We call it Climate 30 Plus program, which is the first private sector-led national program specifically designated for social and environmental and climate issues. And under this program, we as the largest corporate banks in the country have committed to allocating $2 billion worth of sustainable financing to our customers by year 2030. We have also committed to fully compliant to implement and to be fully compliant by 2025 on the principles of Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, TCFD, which we believe are extremely important for financial institutions moving forward to address and to disclose on the matters related to climate-related risks. And by 2050, we have committed to become a net zero bank ourselves. So I think this is just a brief highlight of what we are planning, what our commitments are in terms of to our to our stakeholders, to the country, to our society, to our customer base, and our shareholders. So we believe for financial institutions, a very strong emphasis and very strong franchise on ESG matters is extremely crucial moving forward. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for the opportunity given to us to present in this event as well. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Bodrum, for your presentation. Very insightful. I would like to invite our next presenter, Ingmaral Batkoyak, Investment Advisor at Investcore Capital, and Mr. Tolga Sirgalan, Head of Financial Management Treasury Division, NBFI Joint Stock Company.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Could you see my screen?
Yes, we can clearly see.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So first of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our company and our bond program. And so let's briefly introduce our company, the bond issue. So the Investor is the largest NBFI in Mongolia in terms of loan portfolio, net income, and assets. So we have loan portfolio of around 40 million USD, and our market share is 7% in terms of loan portfolio, and total 42% of our loan portfolio is for business loans, especially SME sector. And our loan portfolio increased from 2016 to 2020 by 100% annually. So, and despite the COVID difficulty, we managed to grow our loan portfolio by 54% in 2020. So that's our brief highlights. And we have 15 branches in Mongolia, and also we have been working with the rural NBFIs to support their system process, and we also provide funding to our member rural NBFIs. And for the NBFI sector, we expect that it will increase around 25% annually for upcoming years. So, and also the NBFI sector is expected to grow to around 8% of total financial sector. So here is our brief milestone. So we started our operation in 2016, and we connected to the state government database center in 2018. So we connect the system into our loan origination system. So according to that information, we use the AI-based credit scoring system to make a credit decision on the consumer loan, especially. So we limit the human intervention in our loan origination and loan credit making decision process. So as a result of that automation, our NPLs remains the lowest in the financial sector. And in 2019, we have established our subsidiary Investor Wallet NBFI, so which is a pocket platform, so pocket application, which is the most downloaded application in 2020. So that application provides the collateralized the fast cash loan for the individual clients. And also the pocket platform provides the digital wallet service. And in 2020, we have acquired the NBFI in Kyrgyz Republic. So that's our first private subsidiary in a foreign country. So also we are planning to open more subsidiaries in Central and Southeast Asian market. So our potential advantage is that we are exporting our financial products and services to the foreign countries. And in 2021, so we successfully issued the very first asset-backed security at the Mongolian stock exchange, and also we have initiated the biggest private sector bond program in stock market history. So the overall program size is 20 billion MET, and the first tranche of that bond has successfully traded on the stock exchange 2 weeks ago. And also we have started the implementation process on the quality management and security ISO standards, and now we have been getting due diligence by microfinance global rating company. So we expect to receive their rating report by this August. And also, we have been selected as the exclusive sponsor of the Tokyo Olympic Game broadcast. So I hope we will be very happy and for this collaboration. And regarding the group structure, total 85% of our company is owned by SIBG Capital, and 15% of our shares are traded on the Mongolian stock exchange. And we have within the group we have 6-7 peer companies working in the financial and IT sector and also real estate industry. And under Investor in VF5 we have 4 subsidiaries. So one is Investor Wallet, and another 2 is in Kyrgyz Republic, and one is for making a special asset-backed security, special purpose vehicles. And we did the biggest private sector IPO in the stock market history, and our IPO size was 18 billion MT, and our market cap is around 76 million USD as of now. And since IPO, our stock price increased by 78%, so which shows our company profitability and our investor trust. And also in terms of trading volume, Investor was the most active share in 2020. So our loan portfolio is increased by 66% year on year, and number of borrowers increased also to around 62,000 people. And our NPL is very low, so our NPL is around 3%, and because the main reason is that we have our average loan amount per client is 1.7 million, and also despite the COVID situation and state lockdown, our loan disbursement and payments also increased dramatically in 2020. So here is our NPL numbers and also the loan portfolio share. Okay, so that's our Pocket platform. So within a Pocket platform, we have digital cash loan and also digital payment service. Also, last year we have implemented the Pocket Zero product, which is a pay later service. So clients can purchase the product from 100 plus merchants and make a payment within 90 days with 6 installments. And total asset of Finiscore is around 50 million USD, and total equity is 20 million. So our debt ratio is 62% by the first quarter of this year. So in comparison with the 2020 first quarter, our total assets grew by 62% and total equity by 16%. And our interest and commission income is around 3 million for the first quarter of this year, and net profit is around 1 million USD. So by the end of 2020, our return on average asset was 11%, and our return on average equity is 26%. And regarding our funding structure, so we have total around 32 million USD liabilities, and around 11% of our liabilities in foreign currency. And also we have closed bond, private bonds as of now, and also we have trust deposit with local individual and foreign individuals investors. And also we have credit lines with the major commercial banks and And to point out, the total 22 Japanese investors are holding 2.2 million USD trust at Investor. Also, they have our shares, and so we are targeting other foreign financial, especially corporate lenders and corporate investors in short term. So here are our prudential ratios. So in terms of capital adequacy, we have pretty strong foundation, and also in terms of liquidity ratio, we have 34% by the end of 2020. Okay, so thank you all. So
I'll take over from here. Hello, distinguished panelists and guests. As Mr. Mansour just introduced us, my name is Ink Marl, and I work as an investment advisor at the Investor Capital LLC. So I'll go on briefly with about the underwriter and also to the corporate bond that we're presenting today. Investor Capital LLC is quite new. We were established in 2018, and our goal was to create innovative products and services in the Mongolian stock market, and also attract foreign investments and to increase the domestic investors' revenue from foreign securities markets. So we're very happy and content that the Shanghai Stock Exchange and also Mongolian Stock Exchange are presenting us with this opportunity to participate in this. We're a team of very dedicated and professional underwriters, almost all of whom has either multiple years of experience in the banking sector, finance sector, and also in the capital market. Well, our company works closely with the Mongolian Stock Exchange and also Financial Regulatory Commission, and we're growing progressively through the seamless cooperation with these end organizations. We do value our customer satisfaction and mutual trust, and also our core value is the long-term and stable investors and customers. And we carry out 3 course of activities. One of them is brokerage service, and we offer traditional in-person brokerage service and also online trading platform. We're actually one of the few securities firm in Mongolia that offer online trading platform to our clients. So you can open an account and participate in the trading at the Mongolian Stock Exchange from anywhere in the world. And also we provide our customers with basic and intermediate stock market information and data analysis. And we do carry out also a dealer. We specialize in securities market transaction and trade stocks and other financial instruments. Our main course of activity is that we do underwriting services. Within this underwriting service, we do offer advisory service on issuing securities and other financial instruments in domestic and foreign market, and we manage fundraising and securities issuing operations, and we do also offer consultancy service to anyone who is interested in the security market legislation and also legal environment. So although we were established quite recently in 2018, we have achieved a lot within this short 3 years. If you can mention from some of them, we have done the IPO of Investcore NBFI and successfully raised 18.6 billion by offering shares to the public through Mongolian Stock Exchange. And it was actually considered as the highest IPO of the private sector companies, just as Mr. Tola mentioned. And also it was mentioned by Ms. Jaflang and also Mr. Tola. We issued the first asset-backed securities from the private sector in 2021. And we've actually achieved almost 200% of the planned order volume. And in 2021, Investor Capital is issuing Investor NBFI's bond that's with the total value of up to 20 billion Mongolian tugriks. So from here on, I'll introduce and present the Investor bond. The key highlights of Investor bond is it's the first private sector bond program in Mongolia, and also it's the largest private sector corporate bond issued in Mongolia as well. And of course, it's openly traded at the Mongolian Stock Exchange. And we've, just as Mr. Toldak mentioned, we've actually had our primary market trade just 2 weeks ago. And as you can see from the chart here, the actual amount that we've of fulfillment was 175.48%. So as you can see from compared to other bonds, that our amount was quite high. And also key advantage of the bond is it's quite low risk, because it's audited by independent auditors and reviewed by reputational, legal, and appraisal advisors. As comparatively high return of, for instance, the first tranche return coupon rate was 13% before tax, and is very high liquidity because the bond can be sold and traded at the secondary market. And also, issuer is quite credible because the issuer is a listed company that's listed at the Mongolian Stock Exchange, and the issuer's major financial results have been growing for the last 5 years. And also, the bond is quite flexible, as it is divided in 3 tranches and will be issued within 6 months. So here you can see the main details, the key offer information of our public bond. The total amount is up to 20 billion, and par value is 100,000 Mongolian tugriks, which is roughly around $35 US dollars. And there are 3 tranches. The first tranche we have already successfully traded on the primary market and is now currently being traded at the secondary market. And the second tranche is up to 6 billion. It is planned to be issued in the second week of August. And the third tranche is 6 billion, which is also to be issued in Q4 of 2021. The maturity date is 2023, or 24 months since the issuance for each tranche. And the coupon frequency is semi-annual. The principal payment should be at the end of the term. And the coupon rate is annually from 12% to 14% fixed. So after tax, this will be 9.6% to 11.2% if we deduct the 20% tax. But just as Ms. Johnson from the Mongolian Stock Exchange explained, that due to the double taxation treaty, the taxation amount can be lower for our Chinese investors. The applicable tax is 5% for domestic investors and 20% in general for foreign investors under the Mongolian taxation regulation. The collateral of the bond is 12 million shares of Investor NBFIs, which is currently owned by its head company, SIBG Capital LLC, and it's being pledged and held by the underwriter. The collateral value is 31 billion, that's approximately 11 million US dollars. The bond repayment will be done from the company's interest and commission income, and the use of proceeds is the non-banking loan issuance. Currently, we're planning 55% of that proceeds will be used for corporate clients and 45% for individual clients. So as you can see from this chart here, it's comparison to local securities and rates offered by commercial banks also. In March 2020, the Bank of Mongolia decreased the policy rate from 11% to 10%, and also it was further decreased to 9% in April, and now it's at 6%. And therefore, Investcorp bond offers very competitive rate compared to the commercial bank savings rate, and is also one of the local corporate bonds offering of highest rates. As of June 2021, the average annual interest rate of 24-month deposits of the 5 largest commercial banks is 8.24%, so which is like around 4.76 to 5.76% lower than the average interest rate for Investcorp bond. So next, I would go over briefly about the upcoming tranches. As I've just mentioned, the tranche 2 will be sold at the second week of August, and the tranche 3 will be sold in Q4 of 2021. And we are also offering 50% of the total bond amount to strategic investors with the minimum threshold of investment of 100 million Mongolian rubles. And the strategic investor requirement is that they have to hold the bond for 6 months after the purchase, and all of the orders that were invested by the strategic investors will be fully fulfilled, and so it will not be lowered at the primary market trade. And also, both international and domestic investors will be open to subscribe through the securities firm registered, any securities firm registered on the MSE, and prospectus for each upcoming tranches will be available once the issue dates are confirmed. The participants in the Investcorp bond issue is professional advisors comprised of Gerig Estimate LLC, who has conducted the appraisal services for the bond, and BDO Audit LLC, which has numerous branches throughout the world that provided the auditing services to our bond, and also MDS and Handlex LLP provided the legal advisory service, and us, Investcorp Capital LLC, as the underwriter. So this is the brief description on how to invest in the bond, and we'll also submit a short summary in English to Ms. Gao, so that Ms. Gao can maybe disperse it to all of the investment funds and securities firms that are operating in Shanghai, and also anyone who is interested in purchasing the bond or the company. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions regarding the bond, you can also contact us at the details, contact information that are given here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ikmaral, the investment advisor at Investcorp Capital. It was a very interesting presentation. Our next presenter is Mr. Ganzari Gambat, CEO of Mandala Asset Management. He's the local asset management, one of the leading asset management and subsidiary of the Mandala Financial Group. So welcome.
Thanks for having me here. I am the Mr. Ganzari Gambat, CEO of the Mandala Asset Management. Mandala Future Growth Fund. And here I am. Okay, can you see the presentation?
No, we can see other screen.
What other screen? One application. Really?
So right after this presentation, we're planning to have a very quick, very short Q&A, and after that we'll have closing remarks from Mr. Alter, the CEO of the Mongolian Stock Exchange.
So, Mr. Ganzori, I think
how about now? I just click on the presentation.
We cannot still see the presentation. Okay, yeah, we can see it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for the issue. Okay. Of fund, which are the three rationales. Like the first one is a good economic prospect, and the second one is a surging capital amendments. And first of all, our economy, we see the good trend in Mongolian economy. In 2020, Mongolian economy showed some, but thanks to the commodity price, we expect a better growth in Mongolia. Export is commodity thanks to the commodity prices. So we expect a 5% growth in 2021, and also we expect better in the following years. And also our capital market surged since 2020. As you can see, there's a big stock return in COVID-19. Our policy low, so everyone is interested in a capital market now. And the third one is a banking sector IPO. There was a banking law amendment, and which requires the top banks to become a public before. So now we have this big quality. That's why we created this monthly future growth fund. And here are the terms of this fund, which is a mutual fund with a closed-end type, and also we will raise a 50 billion MNT, and fee structure will be 1% and 10%, and investment portfolio will be a 70% equity and a 25% fixed income and 5% focus on the banking sector, So we try to So as a fund manager,
I think we have some technical difficulties here.
in Mongolia.
Sorry for interrupting.
We always co-invest it. Sorry? Sorry?
Seems like, yeah, we can hear you now, but we couldn't hear you just right before that. Okay, now it seems to me that now it's okay. Thank you.
When did you lose me?
I think on the previous page.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So the month future growth is the biggest mutual fund in Mongolia, and here are the terms. We will raise a 50 billion MNT for this month, and it's a closed-end fund. The fee structure will be 1 and 10%, and investment portfolio will be at 70% equity, 25% fixed income securities, and 5% cash. In terms of the equities, we will focus on investing in the top banks of Mongolia, and our strategy is simple. We invest in a company with a fair valuation, and we will provide a strategic level consulting and improve company's operations. As a result, we will increase company's profits and the value. That's how we exceed our target return of 20% in this fund. As a fund manager, Mongol Asset Management, we have this 15 years of experience in the Mongolian financial market, and our mission is to create a value for our investors and maintain it over the long term. And our philosophy is professional ethics and risk management and a big return on investment. So the last 15 years, we work with the foreign funds as a domestic partner, and we invested in a financial sector, real estate sector, and the trade and manufacturing sectors. We always co-invest with our other investors to ensure our skin in the game, and also we are proud that we maintained our yield of the 30% for our previous investments. And that's it. If you want to contact us, here's the email and the website. And thanks for your attention. As I understood, those presentations will be provided to all the attendees, so you can see the details and numbers.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Gamzurik. So all the contacts and all the presentation will be distributed to all participants of this event. And I think we're running out of time, and I was warned by the organizers. And so I would like to invite Mr. Altay Hangay, the CEO of Mongolian Stock Exchange, for the closing remarks. Thank you very much to all our guests and speakers for very insightful and very informative presentations, because I think in just about 2 hours we covered majority of our capital market and what's interesting, and especially banking sector, other financial institutions, and foreign international financial institutions too. Oh, thank you, Mr. Altay.
Yes. So shall I make any remarks now? I think, shall we proceed now to Q&A? Because I think our colleagues from Shanghai Stock Exchange as well as Shanghai investment community might have some questions regarding the presentations that we have made.
Okay, I think we might have 5 minutes, and then right after that we'll have you for the closing remarks of the event.
So, colleagues from Shanghai Stock Exchange, can we take any questions from the audience from Shanghai? And hello.
Hi, this is Shanghai Stock Exchange. Yes, we are still waiting for other audiences to raise questions. But for now, I haven't seen any questions from the audience.
We can also assure you that from our Mongolian Stock Exchange side, all the presentations and contacts will be distributed to all attendees and speakers. So I think the presentations and questions, all the questions that were not being able to ask, maybe can be covered later on by email or by other forms.
Great, thank you very much. I think they can contact in person after the presentation.
So I think perhaps we could post this entire session on our websites of our stock exchanges so that people could get some exposure to what's been presented.
Great, and we will try to present this event on our website as well.
Yes, very much. In these difficult COVID times, attending this event. So I think now Mr. Alta will give us a closing remarks on this beautiful, wonderful event. Very informative.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to all the presenters for very informative and wonderful presentations. And also I would like to thank our colleagues from Shanghai Stock Exchange for co-organizing this very informative event. As it was mentioned in the presentations, Mongolian capital market is becoming very active, and we have new exciting issuances on the pipeline for the stock exchange. As Mongolian economy and financial market is integrated with the world market, the interest of the domestic and foreign investors in the Mongolian capital market will be significantly increased. I'm sure today's event will become bridge to connect issuers and investors, and I'm sure our cooperation with Shanghai Stock Exchange will continue. Lastly, I would like to thank again our colleagues from Shanghai Stock Exchange for jointly co-organizing this event. And as was mentioned by Mr. Fu Hao, this is the very first event of this kind between the stock exchanges as well as capital markets of the two countries, despite the fact that China is the biggest trading partner for Mongolia, and traditionally we've been good neighbors for many, many years. And hopefully, and I'm confident that our cooperation, economic cooperation of the two countries will be continued in the field of capital markets and attracting particularly investors from Shanghai and China-based investors to Mongolia through Mongolian capital markets. And let me wish you success and luck to all the participants of this event, and hoping to see you again in person when these uneasy COVID times will be over sometime soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, Mr. Monsor, so is the session now over? Are we going? I think we're coming to the end, yeah?
Yes. So at this note, thank you very much to Shanghai Stock Exchange, for Mr. Fu Hao, the Vice Chair of Global Business Development Committee and Managing Director of Global Business Development of Shanghai Stock Exchange, Mr. Altai. And thank you very much again to EBRD Mongolia, Mr. Hans Takach. And also thank you to Mr. Dennis Bay, CEO of the Rhinus Investments, And also, thank you very much to our local to-be listed companies, Ham Bank, Ms. Itindala Babla, the Deputy CEO of the Ham Bank, Badrun Gashtoch, Head of International Banking Department of Trade and Development Bank, Ms. Inkmaral Batkhoyak, Investment Advisor at Investcorp Capital, Mr. Tolga Sirgilan, Head of Financial Management and Treasury Division of NBFI, Mr. Ganzari Gambat, the CEO of Mandal Asset Management. Thank you all, and thank you for all guests and participants. And hopefully we'll meet again soon, and all the presentations and all contacts will be distributed to all attendees and participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.